Welcome to Survivor 6.5 episode. Shane, are we going to call this episode 4 or episode 5?
4.5.
Well, I think the other one's probably 3.5.
5.
We have a secret episode we haven't dropped yet. It's either 4 or it's 3.5. So welcome to episode 5. We got a guest here today. Interesting guest. He's not, well, he was part of the EMS world. He's no longer a part of the world anymore. He's still a first responder. We worked with him in the wonderful city of Albany for a while. But it's Zach Forrester. Zach, welcome to the show. We're happy to have you.
Thanks. Happy to be here. Just one man clapping. That's all I need. And that's exactly the amount of intro I would require.
I think we need a clap track.
I think we need a soundboard. We need a whole fucking soundboard.
Yeah. I'll work on that.
Yeah, Jesus Christ. This is what I brought Shane on for. He doesn't even do it.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
You never gave me a job. I don't know.
I never actually gave him a job title. I'm like the worst employer ever.
Yeah.
It's like,
Well, one could say. You know.
Wait, you guys are getting paid? Wait a minute.
eventually, yeah, we're gonna hit the big time. You know.
Yep.
We're gonna.
Yeah,
blow-
Joe Rogan who?
Mark.
We're gonna blow
Joe Rogan who?
out of the water. So Zach, you're a cop now.
Yep. So I'm a cop. I'm way out in Colorado now. I've been out here for about going on 7 years. Before that, I worked for the lovely agency of Mohawk in Albany, and then I also worked for a smaller agency right on the Massachusetts border. It was a little slower paced, a little more relaxed, but the days of EMS are somewhat past. I miss it a little bit. Here in the first couple podcasts, I was like, oh my God, I miss those people. And just having that family back there where all of us are like, this is terrible, but we're terrible together. This is great.
For sure.
It's not like that being a cop.
It is, but it isn't. There's a little bit more like pretense versus like when you had somebody my first shift in Central, someone walking out of the bunk room, unzip and unbutton their pants, shove their shirt in, and then zip their pants back up in front of you and go, all right, we're going.
That was
And you're
probably.
like, oh, okay, that's how we're starting our day. Oh, okay. Cool.
It was probably Shane after he didn't do his check sheet.
That's after Shoulder wrote me up.
When did you start, Zach? I don't remember.
So I started, I graduated college in 2015, and so I would have started 2016 is when I actually came on to Mohawk. I was there for about 2.5 years before I flew out this way.
Oh shit! What brought you to Colorado though? Like what are you?
The funny thing about that is I was trying to get out of EMS. Either I was going to go, I interviewed for Albany Fire and Albany PD.
Right.
And then my dad, who works in disaster relief, he was out here at NORAD with a giant meeting, saw a billboard for Colorado Springs Police now hiring. And my dad just texted me a picture of it saying, hey, give this a shot. And I was like, yeah, why not? And so I ended up coming out to Colorado. And I love it out here. It is a massive change. People are nice out here. It's kind of weird to me still.
I don't like that.
Yeah, you guys will both appreciate. So I came out here, the way I did the interview process was I came out here for one set of interviews, left, and then 3 months later, if I scored high enough, I came back for another set.
Right.
But at one point, I was in one of their administrative buildings. I'm in the elevator going to like the 5th floor. Somebody gets in, and they say, hey, how's it going? As the doors close. And I was like, oh, we're fighting. Like, I'm like, wow.
That was my first thought.
Like,
Yeah, like what are you doing?
When I moved,
You don't say hi in an elevator.
Yeah.
When
Do you think that's a New York thing or?
well, it's not.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
not like a primarily New York State thing. Because when I moved out to the Finger Lakes, people were really nice too, and I just couldn't get over it. Like,
Yeah,
like I can't just walk into the corner store and like the guy just leaves me alone. I walk in, hey hon, how's it going? You know, they all want to know my name or whatever. It's like, leave me the fuck alone. You know. Like,
I don't want to talk to you.
yeah.
Or like when I'm getting coffee at like here it's like Dutch Bros, like it's just a drive up, get your coffee and drive away.
Right.
And they just want to talk. So what are you doing the rest of your day? I see you got the green tea. I love the green tea. How's the rest of your day go? Really? What's your plans? And I was like, shut up and leave me alone. I don't want to talk to you. Let me stare ahead blankly and wait for my tea.
Right. Well,
For the
I
love of
just I
God.
can't do the friendly thing. Well, you know what the issue with friendly people is too is they like they're always talking shit behind you. You know.
Mm-hmm. Well, and like the number of times where I'm like walking down the street and like people will make eye contact and be like, "Hey, how's it going?" and like wait for a response. And I was like, "You don't give a shit. Why did you even ask me? Why are you waiting for a response? We're both gonna keep walking regardless what I say."
Yeah, I mean, you're just trying to like I feel like if you're talking to me out of the blue, you know, and like that, like you're just trying to fight me, you know, like it's just.
You're sizing me up and down. You're deciding whether or not I'm a worthy target for that brief
right.
moment in time.
Right.
And so,
It sounds like
And
your
so,
dog's
like-
trying to fight you, Kyle.
Well, my dog is definitely trying to fight me. She's
as long as you win.
she's a brown belt in jiu-jitsu now. She just,
Oh, yeah.
She could see she just told me she's gonna fuck me up.
I believe that.
But
Zach,
but
you,
no, so
you practiced jiu-jitsu, didn't you?
yep. So I have my purple belt now. I've changed around a couple different gyms.
Yeah.
Disclaimer there: I kept my blue belt for 6 years because I kept avoiding promotion classes.
Right.
So I could sandbag tournaments, and also I was just like, I don't know if I'm ready to be purple belt. I'm just gonna take this stripe off while the instructor's not looking. So I just kept my purple belt for 6 years. My blue belt for 6 years.
Right.
And I was like, I probably should. I got cornered, and the instructor's like, I know you've been taking the stripes off. I'm like, crap.
Have you?
Now I have to go in the division where you can knee reap and break people's limbs and shit. I was like,
Have you?
crap.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you. Have you been doing any like competitions at all or anything like that?
No, I help teach at our academy,
Yeah.
which is very different. But looking at competing at purple belt, but like I said, like it's when you can get into like leg locks and stuff where it's like, I could
Yeah.
actually get fucked up pretty good. But
Did you
no,
wrestle
so I'm
too?
still. Yep, I did a little bit of wrestling and I did a little bit of MMA too.
Yeah.
At the good old, what is it, the Armory
Cage
Center?
Cage Wars, baby.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
I
I did
still- I
Cage
still
Wars.
go.
What,
I still
30?
go. Well, Cage Wars is at the casino now, Rivers. They have
Heck
a big
yeah.
ballroom, man. It's actually a nice production now they got going on there.
Yeah, when I was going through it was not. It was kind of sleazy.
Yeah, well,
Oh.
yeah. When I first started watching Cage Wars, it was in the Armory. They're the same place that they would have the raves, and then we'd have the massive MCIs 3 times a year.
Oh yeah.
So you like
Well-
to shoot guns and kick ass. That's nice.
Yeah, it's a good time. No, what really like got me on like reaching out to Kyle, being like, "Hey, I want to do this podcast," is like talking about mental health and stuff with first responders, because like there was stuff that I dealt with as an EMT that carried over into police work that I was like, "Oh crap, I never took care of this, and it didn't just go away."
For sure.
Like, oh crap, because like it's trying to explain to people like the world of first responders is its own world. Like you live on your own planet,
Yeah.
and normal people don't understand. When it's like you see the news and people are like, "Oh my god, did you see that 15-car wreck?" And you're like, "I was there."
Right.
And it's so much harder when you get out of it, you know. Like you two both are still in, and you got like a. Well, I don't like cops are a little bit different because I think there's a little more. There's still more of that macho man kind of
Oh yeah.
you know, whatever culture. Just from the cops I talked to from around here, and but you still kind of like are in it, and you still kind of have like that family aspect. And when you get out of it,
Yeah.
you completely lose it, and that kind of is like a shell shock.
Well, like some of the guys that I know that got out, they're like trying to talk to them about stuff, or like you're trying to tell a fun cop story, and they're like, "Yeah, so I plug in Ethernet cables now," and it's like, "Oh, okay." Our stories are not equivalent. I chased a meth head against 5 lanes of traffic and then tackled him. And that was a Tuesday. And for you, you plugged in 10 Ethernet cables? That's astounding. How did you do it?
Do you
And
find
it's
that like you get the same kind of feelings from like doing police work and stuff that you did as EMS, or do you think one is worse than the other?
I wouldn't say one's worse than the other. It's just different.
Right.
Part of the reason why I went police work out of EMS is because when I was working EMS, a lot of times I felt like a Band-Aid. Like, I really wasn't fixing any problems.
Yeah.
It was when you show up to a domestic for the 15th time, like, okay, well, you fell into a doorknob. We'll take you to the hospital for your broken orbital. And we all know what actually happened.
Yeah.
And no, I'm not going to shit talk other departments. But when you have cops that sit there and go, all right, she said she fell into a doorknob. Case closed, gentlemen. Moving on to the next one.
Right. Right.
And then me as an EMT, I go up there the next week and I go pick her up again for this time broken ribs because she fell down the stairs. And I'm like, I'm just a Band-Aid. Like, I can't keep doing this. Not that I necessarily can always fix it as a cop, but I at least have a little bit more control over that.
Yeah, I guess. Well, my outlook on it now, getting into social work and stuff. I think even as a cop, you're still just a Band-Aid too, because you're like
Mm-hmm.
getting people off the street and stuff. But one thing as a country that we suck at bad is like rehabilitation of like
Yep.
criminals and stuff. Like, okay, you took the criminal out of the like the situation, the hazardous situation, but they're gonna still be a criminal until we rehabilitate them or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
Well, it's like
no, go ahead.
at large, our mental health sucks. Mental health programs suck. Like for first responders, but for the general public too. We're like, I don't want to use the word necessarily victim mentality, but like there's people that are like chronic victims where they get taken advantage every relationship they're in. And so you're like, okay, well, I arrested Joe Blow for shoving her last week. He got back out, immediately went back to see her. She didn't call us for 4 days because there's restraining order and she got scared. And now we're arresting him again for shoving her again. And it's like, there was one guy, I arrested him 7 times
Jesus.
with the same chick. And so it got to the point where I was like, Tony, no
Uh-oh, we lost him.
different broad to be with. And he's just like, man, but I love her. And I'm like, stop it. You're not good for her. She's not good for you. Move on. And he's just like, oh, well, I'll go to jail again. We'll figure this out. Different day.
Like the
Like,
big
oh,
issue
man.
is too is like if you look at the big picture there, and look at his like family history or whatever upbringing, there's probably some things that are deeply rooted there that are causing him to have like relationship problems like that and react like
Oh,
that.
yeah.
And it's like so hard to like look at somebody and be like, well, they did something terrible. Like they should get punished for it. It's like, yes, agreed.
But
But at the same time, maybe we should make them into like a what's the word I'm looking for here? Like an actual human being, like an actual member of society that can like
yeah.
help us all benefit, or whatever, like help fix the problem. Like there's obviously an issue here. And that's like
Well,
the
and, like, you
problem
guys
of
had-
mental health as a whole.
Yeah. Well, you guys even talked about in like one of your other podcasts of like with your low acuity patients and stuff where it's like, I really don't give a shit about your toe pain at 2 a.m. I really don't.
Right.
And versus like I run into it's like, okay, you pushed your wife. Okay. There's people getting stabbed and robbed out there, but I'm stuck here because you pushed your wife.
Right,
And it's like they deserve the same amount of attention. They still called for help, but you get like that just, I don't know. I don't want to use the word apathy, but that's kind of what it is. You're like, for the love of God.
Yeah, you
If I
develop
show
some
up again.
apathy, I think, because like, well, I think the issue is when you work so much, and at the same time, you get sold this thing of like, you're gonna be heroes and you're gonna do all this stuff and help people and blah blah blah, and then you waste your time. Well, not necessarily waste your time. I guess is not the right way to put it, but you're wasting other people's time that maybe have a more quote unquote important emergency, but. I think like something Mark said really important is like you treat every emergency as like a real deal or whatever, and treat everybody no matter what their issue is, and you get a little more fulfillment out of things, no matter how small they are.
Yeah, and like, so I help train new rookies at my agency now, and when I'm teaching people, like, we'll just get screamed at because it's society's punching bag at a given point. As an
Right.
EMT, I was more of a physical punching bag. But but as like people just like call us to scream at us, and like I'll have rookies that are like, "What the that?" And I go, "Okay, this is Monday for us. This is the worst day of their life.
Yeah.
To you, it seems small. To you, it seems menial and stupid. But this is the worst day of their life. Keep that in perspective."
And I
so
think
it's like
I think we have a bad problem with dealing with one call at a time, right? Like we're on a call, we hear a worse call go out, and then we take it out on that person. Oh well, this kid's there's a kid dead over there, but here you are have toe pain, and now and it's just an ever evolving ball of.
Exactly, and like the phrase I use, I have a whole bunch of stupid canned phrases that I use with my rookies, where I go one crisis at a time.
Right,
And they're
exactly.
like, "What do you mean?"
Right,
I was like, "How many crises can you actually solve?" And they go, "Only like one at a time." So then do that. So like
Right.
when we're
Put all
driving
your
to a
focus
call
in.
and they get, okay. No. So like when we're driving to a call and they're like, "Oh my God, what are we gonna do once we get there?" And I go, "We have to get there first.
Right.
Like,
Right.
one
Right.
That's a good
crisis at a
point.
time."
Well, I think I brought up. Well, I think I don't know if we brought it up on air or not. Like a call we went out, Shane, where we were going to that pediatric arrest, and I think I just like, I was obviously half asleep because it was like 4 in the morning. But I also said to you, I'm like, all right, so we're gonna like get in there, get baby out of there, get out of the chaos, and just like start doing our thing in the Pitstown ambulance. And you're like, yep, let's do that. And it was just like a little simple planning like that for like a scary call, and then obviously like we got to get there first, and then once you get there, you just take a step by step, and it just I
assume that's the same in any emergency service. I know it is with the fire department for sure.
100%.
Yeah.
Oh, you're grabbing the irons, I'm grabbing the can, or whatever you want to do it. But
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure the cops do the same thing, right, Zach?
Oh yeah, where it's like, all right, well, first thing I need to do is if we're gonna separate them or whatever it
lost
needs
you.
to be, like, step one, find your step one, get out and go. Nope, are you still there?
Yeah, I think we just got you
Or did we
back.
just lose Kyle?
No, I'm here.
Yep.
Am I here?
We're-
I'm here. Yeah, I think we're
Oh,
all
okay.
here.
Yeah, we lost you.
I think we lost you
Okay,
for
okay.
like 2 seconds.
Oh, okay.
There we go.
But no, so it's a okay. Yeah, it's similar, and it's one of those things like trying to then after a call trying to debrief it when you have another call waiting, where it's like, all right, well, we just dealt with the worst thing I've ever experienced. Anyways, moving on to the next one.
Right, which is what we all experienced at a commercial EMS, I'm sure in general. So it's like, oh, all right, that was awesome. Go do it again,
Mm-hmm.
Well,
and, like-
it's one of those things where it's like, in hindsight, like looking back at it, I used to get really upset about it, but now I look at it and I'm like, oh, it's just the business model, I guess, and it's just you got to go on the next one, and you got to go on the next one.
Well-
You damage yourself, but
Well, I think some of it too, we just get so conditioned into like, well, until you're fine, just keep working until you're fine again. Like one of the biggest, like, when I put my foot in the door to be a first responder, I went through EMT school at Mohawk, and I was Rich Beebe's last class.
oh no shit.
Because it was when he crashed his bike on the way home from one of our classes.
Yeah, I was working
Okay,
that day.
yeah.
I was working that day. Yeah.
Well, and like all of us were like, "Oh my God, this is wild!" And then we took a day off. We took the next Monday off, and then we went back to class as usual.
Oh, at least you got
And-
that.
Yeah, I was just like, but as someone stepping into it, I was like, "What the fuck? Why are we only waiting a day? One of the
that-
instructors died."
Yeah, sorry your instructor's gone, but here's a new one,
Yeah, it's just like, what the? Just the whiplash of it, and it's like, okay, so that's what this is gonna be like. Where it's like, okay, well, that was horribly traumatic. Moving on. Anyways,
And the whole career was like that, Oh, I love my partner. Oh, I have a new partner because the other one quit, And it was just a revolving door,
mm-hmm. Well, that's
Yeah.
I. But
No, you go ahead. You're the special guest today, baby. I gotta stop talking
Damn.
so much, you know.
Yeah, we're trying to get Kyle to shut up.
Yeah, everybody's been telling me I need to shut the fuck up. Today's special guest, Kyle. Welcome to episode 3. It's Kyle.
Well, I was like, anyways, but no, when I like got into first response, like that was my introduction to it, and then I was like, okay, well, maybe that's just like the sake of the class, like it's a state class, let's get this through, let's keep going, pushing through, and then it's like, no, that's kind of how EMS is in general, and that's how it like just kept progressing as I went over my career. Granted, I was only there for 2.5 years, give or take. Granted, I looked back and I don't think I worked less than 68 hours a week for 2 years.
Well, I think you multiply each year by what, Shane? 3 in Mohawk years?
It's got to be 5 to 1.
Yeah, so you worked 12 and a half years.
It's like dog years, right?
Yeah.
It's just-
12 and
man.
a half years you worked at. I had what did I have? I had a 35-year Mohawk career.
Yeah, it feels like it.
Actually, it was longer than that. I can't do math. 40, 45, something like that.
Well, what are we doing? 5? I don't know.
Yeah, 5. Yeah.
55-year career.
You could have
And
retired.
I'm
twice.
32, you know? But
You need to put that on a resume somewhere.
Well,
Yeah.
like,
55 years experience.
there's a funny thing.
yeah, sir, you're 32. Yeah, I know. It's dog years.
There's like a funny thing that I think Butters has brought up that like you put on the resume like, oh, paramedic or EMT or whatever, and like everybody's like, okay, like that's what you did, but they don't like, it doesn't carry the weight of like what you can actually do, like leadership wise and, you know, chaos wise and emergency handling, all that, you know.
Right, because they don't know what we do, you know?
Yeah, not a clue. Well, I even see that now, like, because out here we have AMR, so just the bigger version of Mohawk.
Oh yeah, we're familiar.
They they treat their people just about the same, run them into the ground, and then it's weird being on the other side of it because like I still do CMEs every now and again just to keep my knowledge base up, like
Right.
just because I'm like it's a useful skill.
Do you still have a card?
I don't have a card, because also New York has
What's
that
this
stupid
one?
system where they don't follow NREMT.
I think they're
Yep.
changing it though, aren't they?
Yes, they are.
Oh, are they?
If not, they just did, but
They either just did or they just passed it and they're waiting to put it through or something. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
We're gonna
But yes,
turn
they're gonna
one of
follow
those
national.
states. Yeah.
Oh, nice. It makes sense. I mean, heaven forbid you make sense. But,
Right.
well, it is New York.
Well, you understand
Yeah.
the EMS is different in New York than anywhere else in the country, okay?
Right. So
Yeah,
so they
people
say.
yeah. Treating New Yorkers is different. They're a different breed, okay?
Well, we are definitely a different breed, yeah.
No kidding. But yeah, like coming out here, I was just like interacting with the EMTs and stuff where they're like run down. I see them, they're like, oh yeah, this is my third 24 this week. And I was like, I didn't think you guys were allowed to do that. And like, we're not. I was mandated. I'm like, I know what that's like.
Man. Ugh.
Right.
I know those
It
days.
was like
Right,
looking in a mirror.
Yeah, because I remember trying to create a culture of safety until it was time to mandate you, you know? Oh, I know you can't work a 24 on your own, but hey, here's a 36, you know?
Well, like when I first came out here to work this job, I had gotten a phone call. I was working at the agency out east, and the lady on the phone's like, "All right, so this is your final offer. As long as you accept it, just sign it in your email." And just to forewarn you, we do 4 10-hour shifts, and 10 hours can be kind of long. And I go, "Ma'am, you called me in the middle of my 48. I think I'll be okay with 10."
Yeah, that's a gravy shift.
I
Yeah,
was just about to
I was
ask
just like,
what you work out there, like shift-wise. So it's
Yeah.
like 10
So,
hour
yeah.
shifts.
4 10s. I work a swing shift, so I do 2 to midnight.
Yeah.
And so, like, I enjoy it a lot. I used to work, it's called like a power shift where it's 5 p.m. to 3 a.m., which I
5
think is the
p.m. to
most
3?
fun.
Oh,
Yeah.
Sounds like fun, yeah.
That's like prime time for PD, right?
Mm-hmm. But it's like you're getting bar clothes, you're getting people as they come home from work. Like, it was a great shift, but the sleep wasn't great.
Oh, I'm sure.
Sure.
I'm sure.
It was my first year on, I worked a true midnight shift, which was 9 p to 7 a.
Right.
And that was depressing. When the sun comes up, you know it's time to go home. You're like, oh god, this is terrible. And then, but that was also the same year. Like, went through COVID and George Floyd. Were all that same year.
Jesus.
As I was working mids, and we had like full scale riots and stuff during the George Floyd protests, and so we got put on mandatory 12s. And all my coworkers like, oh my god, 12 hours is too long. I'm like, oh, thank God it's not a 24.
12 hours is too long. Jesus Christ. Can you imagine?
Yeah, I'm just like,
Doesn't
the
feel long
perspective's so
enough.
much different. Yeah, I'm not coming in unless it's a 16. Okay, unless you can put me on for 16, I'm not coming in.
Right.
And,
So, let's touch on some things you went through when you were out here.
So, when I was out there, like, I loved the teaching staff and, like, the Mohawk people I worked with. Some of them, you know, God bless them. I hope they're doing great, but I never need to see them again. But,
I get that. Yeah.
yeah, just, I don't wish ill, but if you're not doing good, it's up to you.
Right. If you
but-
vibe, you vibe. You know what I mean?
Exactly. And, like, I mostly worked at Central and Quail, and I remember I used to do a 12 at Central and then drive across for that, like, hour in between over to Quail Street and then
'cause
clock
that's
in.
The stupid
That was the
6
worst,
o'clock,
right?
7 o'clock thing.
Mm-hmm. And I was like, I would just do that, I don't know, multiple times a week. And I love Butters to death, but also a part of me hates him a little bit because he was in charge of scheduling.
Oh, everybody.
And,
everybody hated it.
Well, that's why I
There's-
poked him a little bit. You know,
Yeah.
mm-hmm.
because
Well,
yeah,
like,
I'm sure people felt like he was the enemy at that point. You know,
oh, yeah. Well,
but of course he had a job to do too. You know.
What's so hard
Oh,
when
yeah.
you got 150, 200 people, whatever, and they all want the same shifts. They all want the same
Mhm.
exact schedule, you know?
Right.
Well, and I remember there was one time I worked a 24 in Central, and then I had 12 hours off between, and then did 24 in Quail. And Butters the next morning goes, hey, I'm going to need you to stay for 12 more hours. And I was like, oh, you're kidding me. And he goes, no, I'd apologize, but I'm going to do it to you again on Saturday. And so I'll apologize after. And I was just like, you son of a bitch. The fact that you know it makes me less mad, but I'm still mad.
Right.
But, like, when I was working EMS, I wasn't, like, the social and go out and party type. It was, like, I'd work my shift, go home, and then come back in. And it was just, like, time to recharge.
Right.
There wasn't really, like... I didn't have a life besides going to work and just kept working more and more overtime.
Me too.
At the time, I was... Yeah,
Me too.
dude.
No, not you, Kyle.
Oh.
Not you.
Complete opposite.
But yeah, like, I just, like, would go hammer out 24 hours, come back for 8, go back in for 24, whatever it was they needed me to do, because I was like, yeah, I don't have a life. I'm just going to go do that. And, like, the first time I remember, like, having, like, a super traumatic, like, awful call. We had a dude who rolled down a hill into the side of an elementary school with a metric ton of dirt in the back.
Jeez.
And fire gets there, and it's an elementary school with kids looking out the window, and they had to cut the floorboards and cut the roof off of the cab of this truck to get the dude out,
Right.
and then roll the entirety of the engine block off of him. And I'm looking at the fire chief going, we're not going to work him, right? Like, please, God, no. And like, no, we're going to transport because we're not going to leave him here in front of a school. And I go, so I have to do CPR on that? Like, just the bag of Jell-O? And he's like, yeah, do CPR. I was like, oh, God, this is terrible.
That sounds
And-
like more like the days where we transported everybody, right?
Yeah, everybody
Yep.
got transported, yeah.
Whether they had
I
a
was just
head
looking at
attached or not. But
Yeah, you just put it back on the shoulders and be like, yeah, look, he's fine.
yeah, just make him look good. Right? Which we
Little bit of
realize
medical
now,
taper on the neck.
did more damage than good. But
Right.
Yeah. Well, like, so transported to the hospital, and they didn't even bring him into the recess. They just put him right in that, like, decon room at Albany Med. Just like, nope, don't even see a doctor. Just go right into there.
Yeah.
And I remember walking out of that, and the dude had the same name as me. And I was just like, his family shows up and starts screaming Zach, and I was like,
Oh wow.
oh, this is going to be terrible. Oh, okay, this is awful. And then I get back to the substation, and good old special Ed's standing there, and I was like, hey man, I need to talk to you. I sit aside with him. He's like both the best and worst person to talk to, and he goes, yeah. He's just like, man, some of them, they're just really gonna suck, and you're gonna live with that one for a long time. But other people need your help, so you need to get back out there. And I was just like, okay. And he sat there for me for a minute. He's just like, we're gonna sit here. If you need to cry, you can sit with me. I'm gonna tell all your friends. Don't worry. But then we'll get back out there because you gotta get back on that horse. Because if you step out now, you're never gonna get back in a rig again. And I was like, it's both the best and the worst advice I could imagine.
And it's interesting that era of guys, I don't know, they're all identical, right?
Mm-hmm.
Your dad's kind of
Ed,
like that, Shane,
Ed,
right?
yeah, my dad, John Simmons. You know, you can name
Oh,
a thousand of them, but
I think that's what
That,
they had to
that-
do to survive. You know, it's like,
Mm-hmm.
and you know, there's obviously research out there that it's way more damaging than
Yeah.
yeah,
it
you,
is
you
good.
can't actually smoke the problem away, believe it or not.
No.
What? I mean, there's plenty of people that have tried, and I just don't know if they've had enough yet. But that was back when I was just like, oh yeah, that's right, that's what I need to do. Put my head down, keep working, get back in the rig, keep on rocking and rolling. And in the dog years that were Mohawk, I was just like, yeah, I don't need to take care of myself. If you just have a drink when you get home and you move on with your day, it's fine.
Man after my
Yeah.
own heart.
Bourbon, man, bourbon was the way to go.
I do love bourbon.
And a good bourbon. I mean, I didn't drink good bourbon because I made Mohawk money, but I hear it's really nice. But yeah, so like when I was going through that, I was just like, okay, so this is how you process that. That's what you're supposed to do. Is just get back in the rig, keep rolling.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, well this will be sustainable. I can do this, and I was horribly wrong. And then I would go to like a child call, and then I'd go to like whatever else horrible thing I would see next, and just be like, yeah, it'll be okay. And the relationship I had at the time, she was, good old civilian. She had no clue what I did on an average day. She had no interest in it, and so I kept it to myself. And I just bottled that up, worked out at the gym, and then carried on, went to the next shift. And I was like, there's no damage being done. Definitely not. I'm perfectly fine, I swear.
Right. Well, that's what I made the analogy of, like, it's like the house, like when you compartmentalize, like you're stuffing it in the basement, and it's like, know, it's surrounded by the concrete and everything like that, and the fucking cylinder blocks, and it's well hidden. It's gonna be hard to get it to see it or whatever. But like when you're, short-term damage, like you're ripping the siding off the house, and it's easy to get into, and it's easy to process because you don't have to worry. You just open the door and walk in and deal with it. But when it's in the basement, you gotta like take the whole house down, dig up the foundation, and then pull it out. And that's what compartmentalization is. Like, yeah, okay, it's stuffed away and we don't see it, but it's in there doing damage. It's cracking that foundation every day.
Oh yeah, and like I would realize it like December's a rough time for me because that's when I have like anniversaries of all these like horrible, terrible calls. Not to trauma dump and terrorize your audience.
No,
but,
listen,
That's why we're here.
that's what I'm going to school for.
So it was working Mohawk my first year on, had a call for a 9-month-old diff breather, and I was like, oh, okay, it's BLS. We'll get there. Fire's gonna be with us. We're gonna be fine. It's like 2 a.m. And get there, mom hands me this 9-month-old that she said's had a cough the last 4 or 5 days, and I'm holding kid, and then kid just stops breathing and turns blue, and I was like, oh fuck. And then mom's screaming at me, what did you do? What did you do? And I just sat there holding the kid going, I don't know what the fuck to do.
How old are you?
And I was 21.
Right. So you're still young.
Oh, yeah. And I just like, okay, okay, the manual says get this baby to an ambulance and to a hospital. Okay, let's go do that. And so we worked her all the way to the hospital, and doctor ended up calling it SIDS because it didn't get her back.
Right. Right.
And I was like, oh fuck, like it was one
Oop.
bit my all right, well that one's gonna hurt later. Anyway, well, and this is thankfully the litigation's all done. But I got sued for wrongful death for that one, and Mohawk, to their credit, covered me because they pulled up my chart and everything, saw everything that happened. But every
Really?
year on
So they
December
actually-
9th, oh yeah,
They actually took you to court.
yep, they actually took me to court.
I've been to court twice, and it was over stupid things.
Oh, this one I was just like, I did nothing. I held the baby, and the mom was
Right.
like, "That's what you did wrong," and I was like, "How? Why? Ah!" But took me to court, and basically my insurance, my malpractice insurance, covered the lawyer, and I was good to go. And I was found not guilty on anything, or not liable on anything.
Well, how was
Well,
that? I
every
mean,
year-
how'd that make you feel? Because that's a pretty rare case, I'd say.
That's traumatizing, if
Yeah.
anything.
Right, you're
Dude.
going to help, and then you're a piece of shit, you know.
And it was just
I mean,
like
court
I
in
didn't-
general.
court in general, like nowadays, it's just commonplace. Back then, I was like, I don't know what the fuck how do I talk? I have a suit that doesn't fit well. Fuck.
Well, as a cop, I assume you're in court quite a bit.
I was gonna make a cop,
Oh, yeah.
I was gonna make a cop joke, but I didn't want to like.
Go
I was
for it.
dark, and I wanted to go there.
Go. Just go for it.
I was like, we said something about, well, Shane said something about like, oh, yeah, they, whatever. You tried to save this person's life, and they sued you, and I'm like, yeah, he's probably pretty used to it now. Being
Yeah.
a fucking
Yeah. Unfortunately,
dirty
yeah,
fucking
pretty
cop.
often. God damn it! How dare you try? You shot the person that was trying to stab me, you son of a bitch! And you're like, what the fuck?
Well,
But
that's
yeah, like,
interesting,
back-
you know.
Well, like back then, I just had no clue. And then every year on December 9th, the mom would send me a birthday card with the kid's name in it and said my daughter would be X years old if it wasn't for you.
Wow,
Jesus Christ,
that's
Um,
depressing.
that's like borderline
Oh, dude.
harassment.
Oh, absolutely.
Well, and I was trying to be a kind person. Like the family's hurting, they don't know what else to do. I'm gonna let this go. And every year I'd open it, and it wasn't till I think 2-3 years ago that I finally like pulled my name off of did the privacy for cops or whatever, so you can pull all of your information off the internet.
Right.
And so I finally stopped receiving those letters. And I was like, every year, December 9th, I'd just be waiting for that letter from her. And I'd open it every year and cry a little bit and then go, all right, they're hurting. I'll be okay. I can stuff this down. This is fine.
Yeah.
This is fine.
Well,
And,
it's a tough thing to deal with because, obviously they're hurting. Losing a child, and you're the guy to point the finger at because you were just there. You happen to be the target or whatever. But at the same time, like you didn't want that to happen either.
Yeah. I was like, I just don't know what the fuck to do with this. But in the good old, EMS mentality of, I'm just going to bottle this real quick. And every year, I'm going to bottle it. It's okay. It'll go into the basement. We'll move on. And then I also couldn't, it sounds terrible, I couldn't be around kids. Like, I just couldn't be within, anyone around under the age of a year. I was like, nope, can't hold my friends' kids, can't be around them. And I was like, that's okay. Everyone has that. That's fine.
Listen, I can't. I still get kind of torn up about kids laughing and shit like that. I don't know what it is.
Mhm.
Like laughing and shit. But I because for me, we went to I think it was St. Margaret's or one of the places like that, and we pick up this kid for having a fever, and I just remember the kid just laughing at a joke I told him, and they laughed so hard that they just stopped breathing and died.
What the hell?
Yeah, no, it was a sad moment. I think they were end of life care kind of thing, anyways.
Mm-hmm.
But I was just kind of telling jokes to a kid, and I had the little blow up glove, like a balloon or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And we were just playing in the back of the ambulance, and they were laughing, and then all of a sudden, just boop, done.
you kill with your comedy. You're that good.
I'm
He's
working
that
on
good.
it. I'm working on some
Man.
comedy. You know, I'm working on a comedy set. Everybody, like my old lady tells me I've bit off way too many things, and I was like, yeah, but I am gonna do all this. I was like, I'm gonna do a comedy set. Like, I'm gonna start doing open mics. I used to do open mics a lot back in like 2016 to like 2018 kind of era, but I don't do it anymore.
Like, it's one of those things like on the list of things I could do. I'm like, oh yeah, comedian would work.
It's so hard.
I have enough funny stories at this point, but then you're like, oh, how do I make the most traumatic stories funny?
Yeah, and you gotta like,
work on that.
Like timing. Like I could say
Oh,
something
man.
like so funny, but if I don't say it right and hit like the right punchlines, like people.
Well, I kind of brought that up on the last podcast. People don't understand our humor like we do, right?
Oh, no.
I don't think they would appreciate dead baby jokes, but
No, like,
No,
or
no.
somebody making-
well, maybe I don't know. My favorite comedian's Anthony Jeselnik, who does tell dead baby jokes.
Oh, yeah.
He has a lot of dead baby jokes.
But
yeah.
I love that dark humor, and that's because I can relate, right?
Yep.
I don't know if I
Well,
have
and, like-
a favorite comedian, but
Well, I think of like when special ed was, teaching our classes, and I still use some of his stupid jokes.
right.
Like, what's the one thing you can't say with a straight face? I'm having a stroke. And then,
Oh my!
and then,
I'm cracking up. I'm losing it.
and then I'm trying to think. What's the other one? Oh, the other one.
The seizure.
How do you? Yep. How do you stop a person with a seizure? You put a bag on their head so they seize no more.
Right.
Listen, if you ever called Ed a motherfucker, he'd be like, "You're a liar. I'm a grand motherfucker."
Yeah, right. He could have his own
Well,
movie,
like-
you know?
He could, man.
Oh
Like,
my god.
You'd have a brand new EMT walk in, 19-year-old EMT, and like he'd be like, "Hi, I'm Ed. How old's your mother? Okay, how old's your grandmother?"
Yeah, they don't make them like that anymore.
No.
No, they don't. But like when you're trying to like say jokes and stuff like that, and to, like normal people, they're like, "Oh my god, that's horrible." And you're like, "A little, but it's still funny."
Right.
Listen, I was telling somebody the other day about how Shane made a baby burp in my eye, and I thought I was crying laughing, and I just look up and everybody's just like staring at me like I'm a madman. I was like,
You're
no,
just
you
like,
guys-
But I think we told that story on the last podcast.
yeah.
And
Like-
even Adam being out, I think he's like, well, that's not that funny. But you're, but you and I are sitting here dying, and he's been at EMS for a long time. But
Well, you know what? Adam keeps his shit up. I'm gonna hit him with that verbal judo.
well, they don't know about
Maybe
that
the
because we never
physical
released it. But
Oh God! All right, I'm gonna put it out tonight. How about that? I'm not even gonna
All right.
listen to it. I'm not gonna edit it. There's gonna be something in there that shouldn't be in there. I'm just gonna send it out.
part 2 went off the rails.
I said, hey guys, do you guys want to get dark and dirty? Like, you guys want to talk about some like bad shit or what? And they're like, yeah, let's talk about some serious shit. And we get in there, and all Mark had to do was talk about his fucking experience with the fucking Long Island police cadets, and about how he learned verbal judo, so he's never been assaulted by a patient. We just all
What?
lost it.
No. I'm really good at it now. Like, I've been through FBI's hostage negotiator and a couple other hostage negotiator. There's still shit you can't talk out of. I'm well aware.
Right, like a
verbal
bunch
judo
of
my ass.
a bunch of gun owning Christians that were minding their own business. Like, you can't talk your way out of that. You just got to burn the whole building down, right?
I mean, come on. For some reason during their course, they didn't want to talk about that. I don't know.
No, of course not. I wonder why.
Nah. Well, it's like when I raised my hand, like, can we talk about Waco? And they're like, anyways, moving on.
What about Ruby Ridge?
Oh, we're done here. Take a break.
Right.
Well, I'm like, but on that same topic, though, like, I think I'm finally at the point where I've gotten into more fights as a cop than I did as an EMT. Like, just at like 5 years, going on 6 years on, I
Yeah.
think I finally tipped that balance.
Jesus.
And like, the number of times where like just in the back of the rig where somebody would just like sit up, look at you like you got that good old strong sundowners.
Right,
like,
right.
and go like, you're the devil, and I'm like, I'm what? Thwunk. Wait a minute. And then like, I tell this story to people, and they're like, yeah, you worked how many hours as an EMT? I was like, 68 was my average. Like the week of Thanksgiving, we'd compete to see who could hit double time and a half by Thanksgiving. But
and it's funny you mentioned that. Like it was a pride thing. Like, oh yeah, I'm gonna be on double and a half. I'll be able to eat like 2 ice soups this week. You know.
Yes, 2 ice soups. Damn it. But like, there was one time I was just so damn tired working at Mohawk. I had done like back-to-back 24s for 2 weeks, and sitting in the back of the rig, some drunk dude pulled a knife, and I took the laptop, slapped the knife, and then went back to typing. And just like, not even a badass moment. That was just a moment of like, I am so tired, I don't know what the fuck just happened. And I'm just like tapping away. And we get into and the dude he'd gotten his shit rocked by the cops first before we picked him up. And we get to Memorial Central, and the cop goes, hey, did he say anything to you on the way? He goes, nah, he just pulled the knife. It's on the floor over there. Anyways, and just like drag my ass back to the ambulance. And afterwards go, oh, fuck, that could have been really bad.
Yeah, thanks for patting him down. You know?
Yeah. And nowadays, I'm like hyper protective over my EMTs and my paramedics because I'm like, you will not have the same experience I did. I will fight this person. You won't have to fight them. I'll fight them for you.
Listen, I don't trust cops ever since to clear a scene properly. Ever since I almost got fucking shellacked with a hunting knife, me and Sean Carmen and fucking Rensselaer.
Did Sean Carmody pull out his own hunting knife?
Oh, we were pretty startled. We got up to the top floor of this apartment, and the guy.
Yeah, everybody has a plan until they get punched in the face. You know what I mean?
Right. Mm-hmm. And he's sitting on the couch, and his literal intestines are hanging out of his stomach. And you know, we're like, okay, we got to take care of this guy in the and it's dark. There's no lights on. There's no box light shining towards our ceiling. That's it. And since the cops was like, yeah, no, everything's clear. Like, you guys cleared the house. They're like, yeah, everything's good. And then all of a sudden, this guy just blows through the fucking closet door with the knife. And dude, he was like half an inch away from me, just fucking swung it at me. And you know, allegedly, me and the cop took him down. Allegedly.
According to the paperwork.
I got a double leg takedown on this motherfucker. my high school wrestling came into play.
Well, like, oh man, so there was one time when I was on a traffic accident scene. I was working with a new supervisor. She's damn best supervisor I've ever worked for, hands down. But I show up, a drunk driver had rear-ended a cop who was doing a traffic stop.
Right.
And so I show up there as like fourth cop on scene.
As working as a cop or as an EMT?
Yeah, as a cop.
Yeah.
But I get out of my car and I'm like, okay, go up to the boss. Okay, what do you need done? And she goes, well, the driver of the drunk car is over there with the other cop. Get them into a cop car and then check on the passenger who's in an ambulance. Okay, cool. So I walk over there and I get into a fist fight with the driver. Nice. And throw them in cuffs, huck them into a car, go to my boss and go, okay, so I'm going to have a use of force report for fighting the driver. And she looks at me and goes, if you did it, I assume it needed to happen. Can you go check on the person in the ambulance and not fight anyone for me? And I go, no promise. No promises. And go sprinting over to the ambulance, pop the back doors open as this dude has both seatbelts off and is on his knees on the gurney and is about to punch one of the EMTs. And I go diving in there, grab the dude, rip him out of the ambulance, fight him into cuffs, and then put him back into the ambulance in shackles and handcuffs. And then come back up to my boss and I go, so, I also fought that person. You're going to have another use of force report. And she goes, oh, fuck. Okay. Can you go take measurements of the broken cars and not fight anyone? And I go, no promises. And I go walking off. And then some hobo comes out of a ditch nearby and starts heckling us. And my boss walks up and she goes, don't fight him. Just don't let him go. Just don't fight him. Okay. but they're not going to fight my medics, right? And she goes, if he fights the medic, you can fight him. But just measure the cars. Just measure the crash, please. Yes, ma'am.
So you're like the Batman of EMS protection, right?
Yeah. I came to this town to punch criminals and hug my parents, and I'm all out of parents. And, but like, it was so different being in Albany where it's like, I'd get into scuffles with patients and random hobos all the time. The number of times where a situation on the reservation hit me with a cane. Good old, you guys remember the lovely young lady who used to sit in front of the armory?
Who you're talking about. Oh, what the fuck was her? Yeah, I'm not gonna say her.
Well, don't say their name, Jesus.
I remember.
I don't.
Yeah.
Her nickname. I know her nickname.
I've been blood since. I've been blood since '92.
There's a situation on the reservation.
The first time I had her, she said, "Why the fuck are you acting up?" And then she took her cane and fucking mollywopped me on the head. I was like, "What the fuck?" Oh, I'm here. Hello?
I got you now.
Hello. All right.
Oh, there you are.
Well, basically, yeah.
Okay.
She mollywopped me with her cane the first time I had her.
Yep. She beat the shit out of me with that cane the first time. I was like, then I learned from there, like, you take the cane from her as soon as she's on the stretcher. And then I had our good friend who had his own bed over at, the hospital right off the eye. A couple of our lovely drunk friends who I got punched in the chest before, and I tried to take a BP on him instead of just doing a blood sugar. And I tried to take his natty daddy from him.
Oh, terrible idea.
Yeah, it was a poor decision. But, yeah, it was just like, all those times where I'm just like, why am I fighting people? I'm here to help you. This is bullshit. And now as a cop, I'm like, I'm here to fight you. If you need me to. I don't want to, but I will if I have to. And, yeah, I think it's finally swapped over from the number of fights I got into as an EMT versus the fights I've got into as a cop. But it took that long. But anyway, way back when we were talking about, like, trauma and stuff. So I had that, like, baby call, and I had a couple other ones that, like, I just kind of let just simmer.
Right.
And then I got out here, and...
That's one of the worst things I've ever heard, Zach. I mean...
Yeah.
That's like, not only did you have a terrible call, you then got harassed by...
For years.
Years.
Unfortunately...
I assume till you moved out of the state.
No, I still got them, because that's why my address is still available. If you look online, you can find most people's addresses.
So they went out of their way to find you?
Yep.
Wow. Yep. Okay.
Yeah. Now that I've, trauma healed a little bit, I hope they burn a little bit in hell. Just their toes. Just their toes burn in hell.
Do you think that's probably... I don't know if there would be anything else more traumatizing than that long term. Jesus Christ.
Yeah. It's that, and then I had a couple other, like, just nasty ones. Just run-of-the-mill EMS calls that got horribly worse as I got into them more. And then I just bottled them as I went in. And so then when I got into police work in the academy, if I had met myself from, 5 years ago, I'd punch myself in the face, which I think is a good growing thing. If you can't look back in time and say, I'd hit the old me, I don't think you've really grown as a person. But...
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. When I got into the academy, I thought I was hot shit because I was like, oh, you guys have never seen a dead body? I saw 10 before I left work last week. Like, what do you mean you guys have never been in a fist fight? And you guys are going to be cops? Ah, you guys don't know what the fuck you're talking about. I know what I'm doing. I was an EMT in Albany.
So what did you do to process your shit?
Liquor.
Did you ever feel like you had a problem with drinking or no?
It wasn't until it was like brought up to me. So like I worked through the academy, and then I got on my own as a cop, and
so you were still
went through
drinking when you went out there.
Oh, heavily. Like, it was when I worked midnights, I'd come home, have 2 glasses of whiskey, 3 Benadryl, and a sleep aid. And then I'd just conk out for about 4 to 5 hours. and then get up and take, pre-workout, mix it with White Monster, and then just rip roar ready to go. And I was just like, that was functioning. And being that I wasn't a very social creature, and give and take nowadays too, I just like kept all that, just bottled it. It was just like, it's my problem. No one else needs to deal with this.
Right.
This is my problems. It wasn't till it started destroying some of my like personal relationships. It started getting into the point where it's like I was being mean for no reason, or like as soon as I felt comfortable in a relationship, suddenly that was not okay anymore because there's no adrenaline to it. And so I tanked a few
sabotaging.
Yeah. And I tanked a few personal relationships until I got to like just a critical point where like not only had the EMT stuff all piled up, I now had just added cop stuff to it, where I felt like I had even like a little more agency to it, where it was like, oh fuck, that person died because I didn't get to them sooner. Or like I had cop call where I arrest dude, hook him, I probably could have, would have, should have shot him. Hindsight 2020. He charged at me with knives and I talked him down. Which in the moment I was like, fuck yeah, police work, verbal judo. Yeah. And then 2 weeks later he goes out there.
Verbal judo Mark Scholler though. He fucking
Oh man.
he created it. So
bring it on.
Did you know Mark Scholler was a police explorer?
on
Son
Long
of a
Island?
bitch.
Yeah.
Whoa. I didn't realize he was the special forces of police
I
explorers.
that fucking episode. I can't.
You're gonna learn.
Oh man. But yeah, so I verbal judoed this guy. Got him to drop his knives, arrest him, like hit him with like 10 felonies. I was like, this guy's going away forever, thank God. And then he bonds out because his parents are rich.
Right.
And then goes and kills the girlfriend a week later.
Jesus.
And I was like, oh, I should have shot that man. Oh, fuck. Oh, I should have shot him.
Oh man, but like a life for a life, it's a tough.
Yeah.
Like you don't want to be the executioner.
Exactly. And like it was one of those things like now getting a little trauma healing.
Right.
I've recognized I'm like that's not on me, that wasn't my responsibility. But when I was still drinking heavily, still doing my White Monster mixed pre-workout, trying to function and be a human being.
Right.
At that moment in time, I was like, it's all on me. And so had a long-term relationship at the time, made some very, very poignant interpersonal mistakes. Wasn't exactly the best, the best boyfriend I could have been, and made some just terrible comments where I was like, had told this young lady, we're never going to get married because I don't know if I'm going to live the next 5 years, so there's no point in us getting married.
Yeah.
And she was like, well, what do you mean we're never going to get married? I was like, there's no point to it, because if I live 5 years, then I'm past my own life expectancy. And that snowballed into, I made some personal things that caused a lot of damage.
Right.
And it wasn't till I got to the point when, like, to be blunt, and part of the reason I got on this podcast is because, like, you had talked very bluntly about, like, being suicidal at one point in time. I had gotten to the point where I had gotten caught doing some dumb shit, interpersonally, not legally, just, in case anyone's listening.
But if you are and you have a good lawyer.
Yeah, exactly. We're fine. But I had gotten to the point where I was like, okay, I grabbed my dad's revolver. I sat on the back porch because I didn't want to make a mess inside because that would be rude.
That's nice of you.
I know, it's so kind. And I was sitting there just spinning the revolver, clicking the trigger, like, okay, well, this is it. And right when I had the guts to do it, the young lady had come home from work and stopped me from doing it. And I sat there and I was crying myself into a puddle, and she was calling me a son of a bitch, which I was. And I was like, I guess I need some help. And just as blunt as I said that to you guys, were like, just looked her dead in the face as like I just almost blew my brains out on the back porch. And I was like, I guess I need some help.
That's funny how that works.
Oh, yeah. Well, and then thank God I had good friends out here. I called one friend, she sent me to voicemail. And I called my other friend, and he was on vacation with his family. I go, hey, I'm not doing good. I need help. And he goes, okay, here's the code to my garage. This is the code to the gun safe. Put all your guns in there. And until I get home, don't go near it. If you do, I have a camera looking at it, and I'm going to change the code once I get home. And so I went to his house with my dog and a fifth of whiskey and fell asleep on his back porch in November in Colorado, which is a little chilly. But
Just a little bit.
with a liquor blanket, you're completely, you're comfy
You'll never,
even.
You'll never get cold. You'll shiver for a little bit, but you'll be all right.
Yeah. And so I sat there. I stayed at his house for 3-4 days. Like I said, he's a damn good friend. I wouldn't be here without him. But I was like, I guess I need to get some fucking help. And thankfully, like, our department has it. I know a lot of them don't, where they have an on-staff psychologist that you can go to. No questions asked. They don't bill for who goes there. They just get a list at the end of the month of, this is many hours of sworn personnel. This is how many hours of civilian personnel. Pay us.
That's actually a really nice setup.
I wouldn't have gone if it wasn't like that. Like, there's still this machismo of, like, if you need help, figure it out. And, United States healthcare system works fantastic, great, and phenomenally. So I don't know if I'd trust it nowadays.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't know if I trust being a CEO in the healthcare system, but
Yeah, that seemed slightly more dangerous. I don't know why.
Right. All
Weird.
of a sudden, now they're getting paid hazard pay.
Yeah, right. They're making enough money.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
I think they're all right.
They're extra 2 cents an hour for hazard pay. But yeah, so I went to our on-staff psychologist, and I sat down with her, and she was like, all right, so tell me about yourself. And the first things I told her, I go, have you ever owned a really old car? And she just looks at me, and she goes, yeah. I go, and all the lights in the dash are on, but you just ignore them for a while until finally the car doesn't start. And she goes, yeah. And I go, that's me. And she goes, oh, we're starting there. Okay, here we go. And like that first, like just sitting there for that first session, she at the end of it goes, okay, well, you're going to be back in 3 days. And I go, but I have work. And she goes, you won't be at work. You have 3 days. You're going to be back in my office. And I was like, well, that's bullshit. I do fine at work. It's my off time that I make poor decisions. But ended up like getting the actual mental health care I needed. And I still laugh to this day because she read off like 5 symptoms for PTSD.
Right.
And I was like, I only hit 4 out of 5. I'm fine. And she goes, you only need 2 to be diagnosed. I go, fuck.
Well, that's what I was thinking
Damn it.
earlier. Is that,
Yeah.
like you said, you couldn't be around kids. That's like a textbook PTSD
Oh, yeah.
from that
And
scenario.
Oh, yeah. And I was just in denial on it. Where I was just like, no. I don't hit 5 out of 5 symptoms. It's not PTSD. It's fine. It's just I have a bad memory and I need to fix it. And liquor makes me not remember. So, liquor. And, like, this lady with her fancy degrees can't figure that out. I should probably leave. But it took me just that, like, rock bottom of, like, oh, God, I need help. And still, like, even to this day, me and my best friend, because he goes to the same therapist. Whether or not she ever listens to this, I apologize. But we refer to her as that bitch. We're like, hey, do you have an appointment with that bitch this week? No? You need one. I'm going to schedule it for you if you don't call her. And the reason why we call her that is because she never lies to us. And so every time we're like, I think I'm doing well. And she goes, you're not. Oh, okay. Well, that bitch says I'm not doing well. Damn it.
I think it's good to have that accountability, though.
Sure, I definitely think we need that.
Yeah.
All of us.
Yeah. And I was like, the first couple sessions, I was like, God, she really is that bitch. I can't stand her. And then, like, as I, like, went through, oh, God, at this point, I probably have halfway to my master's if hours of therapy counted towards my master's in therapy.
Right.
Like, I've been to a lot of therapy. I think I could figure it out. But then I realized, like, after I got through all that, got healthy coping mechanisms, did a if you guys ever heard of a thing called EMDR,
Yeah,
where it's
I'm in it. Yep, I actually do it. Yep.
it's hippie voodoo. I don't know why it works, but it does.
Well, it's basically you're throwing yourself into a flashback, but in a controlled setting. So like you throw yourself either. I don't know. Do you have night terrors at all?
Mm-hmm.
I have
Oh, yeah.
terrible night terrors, and basically you're trying to replicate either like whether you either have flashbacks or night terrors or whatever, like something like that. You're trying to like put yourself in one of those, but you're in a controlled setting, and while you're in that, you can then work through it with the therapist or whatever, to kind of process that trauma and pull it out of the basement, put it in the house, so we can look at it on the wall and go, "Oh, remember that time? That sucked, but now we know how to deal with it." You know?
And I did God knows how many hours of that, which it took a lot, and I still it's yearly where I'll still go and do a check-in with that bitch.
Right.
But after going through all this and talking to my friends, like even like newer cops that I deal with, or even EMTs that I chat with now, because we still see each other in the hospital and stuff.
Right.
But like people will go through like this shitty call and they're like, "Man, that was terrible." All right, anyways, and I go, "Stop it.
Right.
Do you
Let's
need to sit
talk
and chat
about
with
it."
me?
Yeah.
Like, I know this great therapist. She has a comfy couch. Like, I will drag your ass there screaming, and then because of HIPAA, I'll have to wait outside. But, but like the number of times where like I'll have rookie cops come up to me and be like, "Hey, like I heard you're really big on mental health. What would you recommend?" I go, "Off early and often. Like, don't wait until you get postcards from the dead kid's parents and have a stack of them. Don't wait for there to be a stack and stop opening them."
Right.
And it's like trying to get that through to first responders' heads, just in general, firefighters, EMS, police. It's a work and a half.
Well, this podcast we've had mainly just the EMS people on, but I want to have all first responders on. So I mean,
Yeah.
you were like the first step on that.
Yeah, we got a couple more cops lined up here.
Yeah, we got another cop
Yeah.
coming on in the future, like very close future, and then I got a couple firemen lined up. So, and then
Heck
like
yeah.
I kind of want to branch out to nurses and doctors, like because it's just they're hard professions, and
Yeah.
the fact there's no spotlight on taking care of yourself and your brain, it's wild. I mean, it's kind of like an issue with society as a whole. It's like the mental health problem. You look at things like
Oh yeah.
school shootings and shit like that, and like it's like they're obvious mental health problems, but just in our field, like you see it so many times, and like I say it all the time, like I've been to way more funerals than retirement parties.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And there's a statistic I think 2 years ago where it's like cops are 65% more likely to kill themselves with their own guns than they are to be shot on the street.
Oh, I actually have. I just wrote a research paper, man, and I wish I knew where my bibliography was, because there was a crazy stat that blew me out of the water, because I would have thought that firemen and EMS were a little worse than cops when it came to suicide and addiction rates, but the cops were like triple the amount on suicide and addiction rates than the I mean, like. Like firemen and EMS were like in the 40s and shit like that, but cops were like well above that, like terribly above that.
I think you're always the bad guy, right? Regardless if you're there for good, you're always treated like the bad guy, and that's got to take a toll on you.
Oh yeah.
You got to deal with shitbags like me. I've hated cops my whole life.
Well, like
9-year-old
criminal.
Kyle, 9-year-old Kyle got punched in the mouth by a Troy cop once before, and he just decided at that point in time he was going to be a criminal the rest of his life.
I'm not saying it's right, but I get it. I get it. Well, like, and it's one of those things, like, you also have people that are just super, like, fatalistic about the cop work in general. Like, the job's dead. You can't do anything anymore. You can't help anybody. There's no fun in it. And I was like, if you let it die, yeah. Like, you can still say dumb shit to each other. You're on body cam, sure. But you can still say dumb shit. Like, one of my buddy who I deal with all the time. Love him to death, but he says the dumbest shit on camera. Like we had somebody just
Could you
driving
imagine
by.
if we had body cameras, Kyle?
Oh
NEMS?
my god.
Oh my
Well,
God.
could you imagine if you and I had body cameras when we were working together? Oh my god. It'd be 33% famous lunch hot dogs. It'd be like 22% us destroying the bathroom. 15% of us getting screamed at by either your dad, Jen, or Tony, and then the rest of it was just like, and it was like 1.5% of us saving lives, and the rest of it was just us screaming or yelling in the ambulance or singing.
Kyle singing.
Well, it was just me singing, right?
Well, like, what was it? My buddy the other day, we're standing on the side of the road. I'm talking to this chick who's just off her rocker. She called us like 15 times because the walls are talking to her. And I go, well, what are they saying? And she goes, they're speaking Spanish, and I don't speak Spanish. And I was like, okay. Anyway, I don't know what to do with this. But we're sitting there, and a car drives by and goes, fuck the police, as they drive by.
Straight out of
And my
Compton.
buddy, my buddy turns to the street and yells, get back here and fuck me yourself. And I was like, dude, my camera's rolling. He goes, so is mine. Well, we'll deal with that later.
There's this one funny time, like they talking about cameras. If Shane and I ever had a camera, we walked into this house, and this lady was like hammered off her mind. She threw herself down the stairs. We go like to pick her up, and she's like ranting about Trump. Oh my God! Wow, Trump. And this was like 2016 or whatever, with the first election, or was it the first election? Maybe it was the second one. No, it had to be the second one. No, maybe not.
I think it was the first. Well, whatever. When Bernie ran, I don't know.
Yeah, I think it had to be the first one.
16.
Yeah, so she goes, "Oh, you guys in uniform, hardworking men, you voted for Trump. I know it." And Shane's like, Shane's like, I don't remember what Shane said. Something about either he don't vote or he don't tell her what he votes. And I was like, actually, I wrote in Bernie Sanders. And she looked at me and she goes, you can get the fuck out of my house. And she like looked at the cops and she's like, get him the fuck out of my house.
Well, like, that's not to say, like, with all, like, the trauma stuff, like, I still had so much fun as an EMT.
Yeah.
Like, and that was, like, dude, the camaraderie when you, like, good partners, bad partners. I remember in Central, we would have meat Mondays, and we would, like,
you make a big pile of meat.
just a
on the table.
pile of fucking meat. Or,
I was
like,
there a
the
couple
time,
times for that.
oh, it was just, and no one was a really great cook. Alan Post, I think, was
Alan
probably
Post
the best
was
cook of,
fantastic.
but, like, it was like just a pile of meat, and you just have meat sweats, and you go to the next call, and you got giant yellow stains underneath your armpits from all the meat sweats, and you're like, okay, I'm professional. But it was just a blast. And then like the people that I worked with made it when I was back as an EMT, like with all like the shitty supervisors, the shitty like people that we dealt with, like the people in the stations are the ones that made it, like.
Oh, you'll
'Cause I
hear
ran-
that time and time again, right? And we're all the same.
Oh yeah.
Feeling.
Oh
So
yeah.
the people made the place.
Oh yeah, and like even the bad ones, when you had good stories about them, when you had supervisors going, oh dear, and then shaving people with their own pocket knife, shaving them in the common room. Or what was it when I was driving code one time, and that certain supervisor was cutting tomatoes and onions on a cutting board in her lap, and was like, oh, gotta slow down, I'm cutting tomatoes, and I'm like, we're going to a
What?
cardiac arrest.
If she wasn't cutting tomatoes, she was rolling cigs.
One time we were on our way to a fire standby. I don't remember where it was, but we were on our way, and she pulled out that cigarette roller. I was like, Jesus Christ! Like, you just rolled a pack of cigarettes. What are you doing? She's like,
They're
well,
not gonna roll themselves,
She's like,
Kyle.
well, Kyle, there's nothing them firemen want more when they get out of that fire than a nice cigarette. I said,
All right.
sake. She could never write a PCR while we were like driving, so she was always behind on PCRs. But she could roll 8 packs of fucking cigarettes in 2 minutes while I was defeating.
Well, and then we just had like so many just good times. Like the times that Simmons would just like be sitting there with his Tom Selleck mustache, stare at you, shake his head, and go back to making another pot of Death Wish coffee.
Right.
And but like those are the people that like made it. And then when I got into like police work in the academy, I thought I was hot shit. So I was just like, oh yeah, you guys are gonna be my friends because you guys understand my dark humor. And there's a whole bunch of lateral cops. And then we got out of the academy and they're like, yeah, we're gonna go do our own thing. And it took a couple years, but
Right.
you end up getting like that same level of brotherhood. I have one supervisor that he was an Army Ranger for like 25 years and then decided he was going to be a cop. And so whenever he brings up his time in Panama, we're like, oh, with Teddy Roosevelt and the Rough Raiders? And he's like, I'm not that old. And we're like, well, what was the First World War like? And and every time he'll bring it up,
It was
like,
cold, Grandpapa.
It was Papa. It was so cold. And then, what was it the other day? He said his first police car was an Impala. And I go, is that when you just like lashed 2 Impalas to your buggy? Is that what that was? And
Those
it's
old
like,
guys are the
that
guys
level-
that make it, though.
That's when he had the
Oh,
20-inch blades on his Chevy Impala. Getting
Or,
late
like-
tonight.
That's only Troy.
Yeah, that sounds pretty Troy to me.
26-inch rims, son.
As I'm a baller, shot caller, 20-inch blades on the Impala.
Yeah.
Holla, getting late tonight. I can't say that. I'm not. I can't say the rest of the song.
No, you're
Yeah,
too white.
no. Yeah. But no, like every time I think about back to the Mohawk days, like I remember being just like dog tired and exhausted and vaguely traumatized and hungover. But it was like the people that made it, just like hanging out in the just the common areas. Or there's one night I remember with Alan Post, he came walking into the common area of Quail Street, and I was stupid broke, and so I had a can of peas that I was eating with a spoon. And he just looks me up and down and goes, life's that way, huh? And I go, yeah, life's kind of this way. And he goes, okay. And goes back to bed. I'm just sitting there eating my peas out of a can. But it was just like those kind of times where I'm just like, that was just a brotherhood where I had a group of friends that were forced to hang out.
It was definitely like a family. It was a family that you didn't get to choose. Well, you don't get to choose your family.
Yeah.
But you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, we've gone on pretty. So we got So we got like another thing going on after. I'm trying to wrap this up a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
But
Yeah, by all means.
We could. Well, I'm probably gonna have you on again because we're gonna do some trauma.
Absolutely.
We're gonna do some live trauma process.
Absolutely. And like I said, after hours upon hours of, trauma therapy, fortunately, I know how a lot of it works.
Right.
You get good at it.
Well, there's actually like a really good book on trauma. I'll have to send it to you. It's like a
Yeah.
workbook. That like, not only do you, like, so you read these chapters and it kind of goes through the different parts of like trauma and shit like that and how it makes you feel and shit. And then towards the end, like the end of each chapter, they have little worksheets and you like, work through them. And it kind of makes you realize like, oh, this is why I do that. Or this is why I feel this way or that way. It's like, oh, it's all linked to the trauma, So I'll send that to you. It's really good. But
And like,
so we kind of been doing this to everybody. I guess it's just like, if there's anything you feel is like the most important thing. No, it doesn't even have to be mental health wise. Like even if it's like how to take care of a sourdough starter or something. The most important thing that you on your mind right now that you could relay to the general public. What do you think it would be?
oh crap. Be honest with yourself. Like the number of times where like I told myself I was fine, and like the number of times I told myself it wasn't okay to not be okay. Like, just be honest with yourself. Like, I can come across, I've been told before, I talk too much for my own health, which I'll probably never promote for that reason. But it's just be honest with yourself. Like, know who you are as a person. And it takes a lot of, sitting, figuring out who that is. But also, like, being able to know who you are and whether or not you're okay. Because I took a lot of time just ignoring the fact I wasn't okay. And if everyone sat down for 5 seconds and went, okay, my own little status check, am I okay? I think we'd be on a better step and be a better route as first responders in general. But yeah, I think that'd be it. Be honest with yourself and take some time to actually know whether or not you're okay.
Right.
Good advice, yeah.
It all comes down to the self-care, but yeah, I like the honest with yourself thing. Like, I think a lot of people are able to sugarcoat the fact that their life kind of sucks. Like,
well,
you're going through some shit and you don't feel good.
I was going through a Costco bottle of bourbon every week, and I was like, yeah, it's my weekly trip to Costco. That's just part of the shopping list. Everyone does this. And you're just like, oh, I'm also running out of Benadryl at the same time. Is that concerning? Nah. We're good here. We're good.
The bourbon.
Not to Scholler. Scholler thought that was normal, apparently.
We're gonna have to have Scholler on again so we could properly break him down too, because he's got some issues.
Yeah, he just doesn't. He's still not coping.
He was drinking like 8 bottles of bourbon a week, and he's
like, oh, but my friends help me. I still don't think that's normal, but
Well, if you need, we can verbal judo spar if you need to get us both on.
Say,
2 masters of verbal judo.
I was gonna say the next time. When are you gonna be in the capital region again?
I can't even say the next time because.
Do you visit or?
No, basically when I moved out here, I cut all my ties, and then when I had that wonderful little series of mistakes with the former girlfriend, and
do you recommend fishing off the company dock or?
No.
Don't ship where you eat.
Yeah, about that.
Did you ever hear things like that?
Just constantly. But no, and like I kind of cut a lot of ties with a bunch of people back east, and like even my family is a touch and go situation sometimes. Like the last time I crossed the Mississippi was probably about 4 years ago. And so
he's a big fucking Oregon Trail guy.
Yeah. They all died of dysentery. It's fine.
I was gonna say, if you came back here, man, I'd love to roll a couple times.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
You don't hang out with them Yankees.
See where that purple belt got you,
About that. I'm about 180 pounds now. It's about 140 of just sinew and anger when I was still an EMT. And now I've got a little bit more beef to me.
Got a little girth to you now? You think you could toss me around? You think you could toss me around?
A little wide.
Kyle's got a lot more girth now.
Do you think you could pass my guard now? It's 8 feet wide.
Jesus. I've just been shucking a leg for the last 10 minutes. I don't know when the fucking ends.
I don't get it. Every time I swim, I'm still in his guard. I don't get it.
But no, I'd absolutely love to come back east because like it would be coming back for Mohawk people back in the capital region because it would be like Alan Post. I try to keep up with. I'm terrible about keeping up with people. When I heard Dunham and Patrick's voice, and I was like, I need to get a hold of them. And then especially with you guys, where it's like, I need to come back at some point. I don't have plans to, but if that comes in the cards anytime soon, I'm going to be reaching out.
I'd love if, like, this podcast does kind of take off a little bit, and, like, we could just...
Yeah, we need to get, like, a big group together. like a family reunion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we could, like...
We can just sit across the street from Central and just heckle all the ambulances that go by.
Yeah, because you would know nobody in them.
At the crackhead.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, like, look at all these crackheads at the crackhead church. I used to work there. Okay, Grandpa.
Okay, yeah, sure.
Take your medicine. This guy's a whack job.
Yeah.
I mean, they're
Oh,
not
man.
wrong.
Yeah, I mean, fair. Hurtful, but true.
Yeah.
But
man.
no, absolutely. Because this podcast, when I was just listening to even that first episode, I was like, it reminds me of being back home. And home
Right.
wasn't necessarily even like with family. It was like the family I chose that was more important at the time. And so I was like, I need to get in touch with you guys. And I'm thinking I probably need to get back east at some point. It's terrifying because people are mean over there.
You're
But
fucking right, pussy.
yeah, damn right. Go fuck yourself.
Hey, go
That
All
means
your
hello.
feelings, pussy. You know?
Why don't you fucking blow it out your ass, you fucking softy? Jesus Christ. Sit over here. Boo, oh,
Quit-
me. Fuck you. Stay out west then.
Yeah.
You got your mountains and your weed. Shut up.
What I see the other day, there's a comedian. He was like, "Yeah, I was walking around New York City smiling, and some guy yells, 'Yo, Smiley, hide your teeth. No one needs to see that.'" And I was like, "That's the most New York thing I can think of."
Oh, you happy? You big happy guy now? Huh?
Oh, okay, go fuck yourself.
What'd you get? Your
And,
dick
like, even
sucked?
out here-
You get your dick sucked, you run around with a smile on your face, go fuck yourself, alright? I got my dick sucked for 7 years.
I've got one coworker that was NYPD for 20 years, and every time I see him, I go, "Hey, fuck you," and he goes, "Hey, fuck you. Good to see you, pal." Every time we see each other, and I was like, "That's a
That's
New
the
York greeting."
high.
Yeah,
Exactly.
It's like,
It really is.
go fuck
How's your
yourself.
mother? Go fuck yourself. You know?
Yeah.
Fuck your mother,
Fuck you. Yeah.
too.
And your grandmother. I'm old enough.
Fuck 'em all.
Fuck you.
Old Eddie came out. Oh, man.
Oh,
What's
man.
that?
Jack, do you have a partner, or is it one cop per car?
So it's one cop per car. We try to run together for calls, but it's a hit and a miss depending on what time
So
of
that
day,
kinda-
what
That
kind
kind
of.
of sucks.
It does, but doesn't. So like the schizophrenia gets out a little bit. I can talk to myself in the car, and no one thinks I'm weird. But a lot of the times it's just me rolling call to call, and you get paired up with somebody at the start of the day.
Oh, so it's not always the same partner.
Yeah, and that's similar to the Mohawk days where you're like, "Oh, I'm paired up with who today?"
Yeah, I got the
Oh,
FNG.
Fuck. Yeah.
Who's Shane? Who's S. Largay?
Largay, yes.
Okay. Well, I still remember granted, I was trained by Sal and Adagi.
Great crew. You
great-
couldn't have been trained by any better crew for
Absolutely.
fire cars.
Did you say better or bitter?
Well, both.
Yes.
Because Sal was certainly bitter. And I worked with him
He
for
was
a
the
while.
epitome of, "Hey, go fuck you. I really don't care if you live or die in the back of my rig. Just clean it.
He's
I don't
fucking
care."
Medicaid abuser. Blah 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 blah. Medicaid. He would always go on his rants.
Yep. Well, and then my first shift on my own when I got cleared as an EMT was with Chris Adkins.
Ah.
And
Dadkins.
I walk
We'll get him on
into the substation. I walk in the sub and Chris goes, I go, "Hey man, I'm working with you today." He goes, "Fuck off. Don't talk to me." Fuck you. And then we get into the rig and I go, "Am I just not supposed to talk the whole day?" And he goes, "I told you to fuck off to start. And you can't even do that. I guess you can talk." And then the rest of the day got along great, and he and I got along great the entire rest of the time I worked there. But the first day he's like, "Just stop. God, just stop talking." I was like, "It's too late for that. You're stuck."
You want to shout anyone out? You have any partners that you really vibed with? Or?
I miss Alan Post. I miss Dunham. One of my favorite calls was that I always think about, and I use an example with Alan Post. I had a guy who got kicked in the face and had a spiral fracture in his face, but he was so drunk he didn't realize it. And I was sitting there. The dude was sitting up facing me. I was trying to fix his bloody nose. And then the dude looks at me and goes, "Oh, I think it's stopping." Takes the gauze out, takes the clip off, goes, "Poof!"
Oh no!
and just sneezes blood all over me. And I was a nice young kid, and Post was driving. And Post said he was driving there, and then he hears from the back of the ambulance, "Poof! What the shit?" And then just slams the brakes hard enough for me to go flying into the cargo net, looks back and goes, "What just happened?" And I'm sitting there shaking, covered in this dude's nose blood from head to toe. And I go, "Just drive. Just drive. Just fucking drive." And we get to the hospital, and Alan comes up to me with one of his spare shirts, which he was very large at the time. and it was like down to my knees, and a 4x4 gauze pad, and he goes, "Here you go, bro." I'm just like, it doesn't help anything. It doesn't help anything. But then like just working with Dunham too, like the two of them, I miss working with those guys. Like it was just good times. But I assume you guys are gonna have like Sean O'Brien at some point on, if you can get a hold of him.
Yeah, Sean, where are you?
He finally
Yeah.
answered my my phone calls with a text. That
Yeah.
was, but he hasn't texted me back. So.
But yeah, get Sean on there because I had some good memories and stuff with him too.
Oh my God, me and Sean have stories for days. I mean, we worked together for almost 3 years.
One thing I noticed that all first responders, better than any civilian I've ever met in my life, we all can tell stories. Like start to finish. You want a story told, just tell it to your first responder friend and they will make it 10 times better.
We're just full of them.
Yeah. Every time it's like, oh, that reminds me of blank blank call. That reminds me of whatever call.
And Kyle touched on that in the first one. Like, I don't remember half the calls until I hear something
it's
else.
like a verbal cue or something, and I'm like,
Oh, yeah,
shit,
I remember that one time, you know?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Like it goes back to my worst call ever. I don't know. It's they each are bad in their own way. But.
Well, and like, it's one of those I still get that question as a cop too. Like, oh, what's the worst thing you've seen? I'm like, oh, you want trauma? Okay. I mean, secondhand's it's never as good secondhand, but if you want it, sure.
Right.
Exactly.
Well, Zach,
I mean, that sounds bad, but it's not.
Zach,
It's not.
It was great to have you, and like I learned a lot about you and what you've gone through. So, and I think it's great for the podcast and the message we're trying to get out here. And I
it was
think,
one of those things like, oh, good.
Oh no, I was just say when I get better at this, I think we'll get you back on. I think we're gonna work through some of the stuff. We're gonna get through it a little more.
Awesome. Like
And I hope,
I know like
jeez.
I know like the three of us didn't work together a ton, but dude, as soon as I saw like what you're doing with mental
I don't
health
think
and
we
the
ever
people you're
worked
talking
together,
to,
right?
I think I might have worked with you
up in
once, Zach. Maybe.
well, when I look back at Facebook Messenger, you and I traded shifts once or twice.
Yeah.
But
I was always trading shifts because I was trying to figure out when I'd go get banged up,
and then Shane, I think you and I worked together in Troy like 1 or 2 times because I was always Chris Smith's partner because no one else would work with him in Troy.
Smitty.
What he says to you.
I says young lady.
So I says, young man,
listen here, okay? I may not be a medic anymore, but young man.
So what I says,
Good old Smitty.
Oh my God.
And so,
Smitty's
no,
doing well.
I
I
just-
talked to him not that long ago.
Oh, it's good to hear.
oh, good.
If anyone cares.
Yeah,
I do genuinely care. He's a nice fucking guy.
I mean, I hope nothing bad happened to him, but that's as good as it's probably gonna get.
You want to talk about trauma? I'm sure. We could get him on here.
He's had some bad calls. He's had some bad calls that fucked him up.
That's the epitome of what we're doing here, so you don't end up like that.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. But awesome, guys. Well, I really appreciate you guys having me on, and reach out in the future. By all means, like, I'll happily chat about whatever and go into depth with if you ever have police-related questions. No, I don't know if shit's illegal in New York, and if it was a friend of a friend, I'm not going to answer.
I'm gonna call.
But
We're big into catch and release here, so.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah.
We're a bunch of catch and release cops now.
Oh, you did murder.
like-
You're back on the street in an hour.
It was a little murder, a little one.
Yeah, right.
But
Well,
like, if
You
you
kill
if
one
you have
CEO,
cop friends
and all of
too,
a sudden,
hit me.
Listen, everybody, like I said, I've always said every time, man, like, there's resources out there. We just added another one to the crew with Zach. I'm sure, if you messaged him and you wanted to talk, if you didn't, even if he didn't know you, he'd be willing
Absolutely.
to help you guys out, And
Absolutely.
I hope that you could spread our message out to Colorado, man. That'd be like so many
Will
more
do.
people that can like listen, even if you just share your post and like
Yeah.
or recommend it. Like, just the more people we can get this message to, the better. And that's what it really is. Because like, think about what it did for you. by listening
Yeah.
to the first 3 episodes. You know, like that, it'll do that for so many more people across the nation if we can somehow get it that way.
And it's having that honest conversation where I'm not sitting here bullshitting where it's like, so I was sad sometimes. And it's like,
Right.
no, this is the real shit. This is what
I
people
want the
actually go
details.
through.
Yeah, I want to
Yeah.
know. I want to know what the metal tasted like. You know,
Mm-hmm.
it's really
The gun oil is a little sweet. Okay, you got to be careful in the front sight post will chip your tooth.
So if I run out of sugar, I can put it in my tea. All right.
Just a little bit though, just a little bit.
But that's
I could
feel
whistle
like
like
that's
a champ, though.
normalized, right?
Yeah.
How many times
yeah.
did you just said that in corporate world? Like, oh my
But-
god.
You could have. Yeah. Well, like, I had a
Yep,
buddy of mine
I
that
got
was
you back.
talking about like his. Okay, I had a buddy of mine that talked about like his fiance cheated on him with another cop, yada yada yada, and he talked about like, I'm just gonna take a bath with a toaster, and did that for like.
Right.
He got to the point where he was making so many comments about it, where I sat down with him like, all right, you gotta either shit or get off the pot. I can't keep my uniform pressed all the time. So either you're gonna do this thing or you're gonna get better. Like you need to kind of decide.
Right.
And when I tell that to like anyone outside of first responders, like, you're a monster, and I was like, I was honest,
No,
and he got
I'm
some help.
heartless. All right.
Yeah, I'm just heartless.
I get a vagina in my heart. But no, but it's
But-
great. It's great to have you on, man. Unfortunately we gotta wrap it up. We got some time constraints.
Yeah, wrap it up by all means.
But like I said, I'd love to have you back on. We could chat through some more dark shit. You know.
Oh yeah, it gets darker somehow, but it doesn't.
It always does.
But
That's because the light bulb stopped working. But baby, sometimes you gotta unscrew them and put them back in. You know.
yeah, screw it. Pun intended.
Jesus Christ. He's got a kid out there somewhere. Well, how's episode 5 survived to 6.5? I'll leave you guys with that one. And thanks
right.
for listening. I love all you guys. Thank you.
All right, love you guys.